It's time to connect. Forget about your busy schedules for a moment and join us. Let's learn to enjoy every minute of this season. Let's talk with each other, cook dinner together, laugh out loud, pray together, and stand with one another. Don't do life alone. We're better together. Come on, we are the church, you and me. Determined to not just watch content on your screens or just tune in to church online. We're going to stop the scroll and start conversation. Let's be light and hope in the darkness and filled with faith that releases God's miracles. Now is the time to declare the name of Jesus in your home and city. Lift your voice in worship and change the atmosphere with praise. More than a church, we're a family. Your friends, we love you. Church may look different during this time, but the mission remains the same. We love God, we're passionate about people, and we're committed to making disciples who change the world. Let's stay connected.
Hello and welcome to our service online. We're so glad that you can connect with us today. I know we're going to hear an amazing message. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome. We're so glad to have you here. Make sure that you hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. And let's get ready to hear this wonderful message.
All right. So we've been talking a lot about change. In these last couple of weeks, we're in a series called Change Your World. And change is risky, right? I mean, really, when you get down to it, to change your life is risky. It costs you, that's why. Change will challenge you, and if it doesn't challenge you, it won't actually really change you. So I don't know if you've been trying to put any of this in practice. I think I've been giving you some good things over the last couple of weeks. We talked last week about changing your mind. Talked about your mindset in order for you to be able to change your world. But today I want to invite you on a ride. And not any ride, the ride of your life, okay? The ride of your life. And my message is entitled, A Risk Worth Taking. A risk worth taking, or a risk worthwhile. And there was, a number of years ago, I think it was back in 2003, I went to Africa because my dad was actually born there, and so he had a real burden for Africa, specifically Zambia. That was where he was born and raised. And so we began to go and do some missions trips. And if you've ever been on a mission trip, that will change your life, right? And I feel like I'm on a mission trip in LA every single day, but but there is this missions trip that I went on. It was a month long, and we were in the bush, we were in the villages, and a big part of what we were doing was teaching the villagers and the people how to dig wells to get water, and also about hygiene and drip irrigation, stuff I had no idea really about until I went to this missions trip. Because believe it or not, the biggest killer over there is no water and lack of hygiene. There's so much disease and sickness. And so that's what we were doing. We were teaching them how to just do this. And in the meantime, I got to do what I really love to do. And we'd set up a stage and we'd do worship. We did no flyers, no tweeting, no social media posts. You just set up a stage, start singing, and you see all these people start coming out of the villages. And they start coming towards the stage. And then we would preach the gospel. And as they began to respond, it was so, breathtaking. The response to the gospel, we would plant a church that day. We would say, hey, here's a pastor in the village. And then we would send money and we'd build a building. And so we were able to do that for just in 1 month. I think we planted 7 churches because of the different places we went. And on that specific trip, I met somebody and we were hanging out. We were doing stuff, going places. And he was a musician. And so his name was Reuben. And Reuben, we got him a visa to be able to come and visit us here in the States. And so he came. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to take him on the ride of his life. Not only the 405 freeway, which for most of you, if you've just grown up here, it's normal. But the 405 is intimidating. It's like 6 lanes on one side, 6 lanes on the other. You're like, I'm going to die, right? And so not only that, but I was like, let's go to Six Flags, y'all. Now, okay, he's from Africa. He's not super, educated in the roller coaster realm because I'm from England and neither was I, okay? So Six Flags for us is a commodity. But for most, it's like man, what is a roller coaster? I've heard about it, but I'm going to take you to the place. And so we arrived at Six Flags, and of course, it's like, it gets hot. Santa Clarita, right? I mean, it's like hot, okay, during the summer. So I'm like, we're going to go on the featured ride. And in that time, I haven't been for a long time, so I don't know what's going on now, but it was the X. It was the X, and so I said, okay, we're going to the X. And he looked at me and said, okay, I'm a fully grown man. Like, he was a big boy, all right? And we walked, and we stood in line, and he's getting nervous. And in Africa, they like to hold hands. And I'm not a hand holder, okay? Especially if you're a man and you're big. You know, it's like, I hold my wife's hand, and he starts reaching for my hand. I'm like, we're in public for what? Like, what are you doing? And he's like, you know, it's just a friendly thing. That's why it's actually just normal. But I'm like, we don't do that here, okay? Stop that. And so we're getting closer and closer, and he's freaking out. He's like, I can't believe you're doing this. I'm like, it's going to be the ride of your life, bro. It's going to be amazing. It's okay. People live. They go through this. And as we get to the edge and we get to about to, get on the ride, and again, the X, if my memory serves me right, it's like this, the chairs immediately start moving and music starts blasting. You're on your own. and so I see the hands start reaching. Like, he's trying to find me. No hands. I'm holding on for dear life. Do not distract me, okay? And so the ride goes, and you're in your own world, and I can hear kind of this screaming that's coming from somewhere, like a loud scream, but everyone screams. As we get to the end of the ride, the screaming doesn't stop. But it's not the kind of screaming of joy. It was a screaming of like, you just ruined my life. And we get off, and I'm smiling, and he looks at me, and he runs to me, and he squeezes me so hard. I will never forget that hug. It was more than the prodigal son type of hug. It was like, he hugged me so hard, and there were tears streaming down his face. Now we have a crowd. Because this wasn't normal. Most people don't do it. You just get off the ride and go, but we were having a moment. But the screaming didn't stop, you see. He was screaming, and I thought, I ruined my boy. He's going to just go, I hate America. And he looked at me, and he said, that was a risk worth taking. And we got back on the ride, and we did it again, and now it's a story to tell. So I want to take you on a ride today. But it's a risk worth taking. And how many of you love roller coasters? You're the hands in the air type. You're just crazy. Okay. And then how many of you just hate them and you white knuckle like that video and you just hold on tight? Do you know why you hold on so tight? Because you're scared. You understand that the thing was engineered and there's got to be some regulations, and I don't think anyone died yet, so I can get on this, but what if? I'm scared. This may not go well with me. And it's fear that keeps us white-knuckled in life. It keeps us holding on so tight, right? This fear in our life, holding on to the old ways, holding on even to that old job that you've had for so long, but you're just afraid to get out of it because what happens if I can't find anything better? Holding on to destructive habits because this thing kind of identifies with me, and maybe going back to what's familiar. It's that fear that does that, and that's why we see so many people even remain in relationships that are abusive because it's all they've ever known. And if I get out of this relationship, maybe no one else will love me. We're holding on tight to not always the right things, and fear of the unknown will grip you. And I want to address fear today. I want to address it so that we can overcome it, because what fear will do is it'll grip you and it will convince you to stay the way you are and where you are. Fear will do that. And maybe you're sitting there today and you say, no, I'm the roller coaster type with my hands up in the air. I got no fear. I'm going to help you find out right now. Because Even though you may be that thrill seeker, that climber, that mountain climber, I don't know. I'm confident in saying that physically, maybe you have your hands up, but spiritually, emotionally, in your heart, you are holding on for dear life. In your heart, you're going, oh, I don't know if I can make it through another time or a day, or I don't know if I can do this. I appreciated hearing Victoria because she told me she was nervous. She didn't look nervous one bit. On the outside, she didn't look nervous. I thought that was pretty good. But I remember that when we sat down for the first time and she talked about her husband just being deployed, that's an internal battle. And then that's a different kind of a fear, right? Where you think, I'm now alone. I can be confident on the outside. I've been through a lot of stuff. But there's things that we all deal with. And so, scared of the unknown. Let me tell you just a little fun fact. Do you know that they have discovered over 7,000 types of fear that we face? One's enough. I don't need 7,000. Let me tell you a few familiar ones. Acrophobia. Acrophobia is the fear of heights. Anybody? There's another one, claustrophobia, the fear of, right, those closed spaces, elevators. You don't do well in those. I'll take the stairs. There's another one, the anthrophobia. That's the fear of people. And maybe because of the movie years and years ago, you know about arachnophobia, the fear of spiders, just to name a few, right? Some of you are going, yep, I got those. Some different fears, but for a lot of us here, we deal with a fear, and let me be vulnerable, of not being good enough. The fear dealing with, I'm not good enough. I don't have enough. Oh, that one's so easy to live, and especially in the society and culture we live. I never have enough. A fear of, am I gonna make it? The fear of not knowing enough. Or even this, not doing enough. I'm never doing enough, this fear, and fear will grip you. And I went to get on a ride the other day, actually, with my son. We were at a park, and he was trying to get on, and we got to the front where you needed to stand against, they have a measure line. There's a measure line. Can we put that on the screen? There's a measure line. Something like this. You must be this tall to ride. You all know this well. You've seen those. And he needed to be a certain height. And usually for roller coasters, about 48 inches. 48 inches. Anybody even know your inches? Like, I don't know my inches, so don't ask, okay? But you got to be about 48 inches. But when we got there with my son, he was too short. He didn't measure up. So he couldn't ride. And that was it for him. He was so upset. He was so disappointed, so frustrated. You know what he said? I want to go home. I don't even want to be at the park anymore. This place is lame. I don't like it. I hate being short. Everything now just began to crumble around his life because he didn't measure up to that line. And let me just ask you this simple question, and it's metaphorical, but what is your 48-inch line? What is your 48-inch line that you feel like I got to measure? What's keeping you right where you are right now? You got to get personal with me, from getting on the ride of your life, from really giving it all. What is keeping you today from giving everything to Jesus? I don't mean Sunday morning, but I'm talking about giving your everything to Jesus, all that I am and all that I have to Jesus. I like convenient Jesus. When I want, how I want, right? But everything. What is my 48-inch line that stands before me, and just like my son, oh my gosh, I don't measure up, so I want to leave. I don't even want Christianity anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. That's what fear will do to you. Let me talk to those who are going to Encounter Weekend. What's that 48-inch line that's standing before you this week to say, you know what, you shouldn't go. It's too hard for you to go. It's going to be too hard for you to measure up. It's too hard for you to be good enough. There's too many issues and reasons why you can't. We all have this 48-inch line, and those fears, it's those fears that hold us back. They will cripple you, and they will stop that ability of experiencing God's goodness in your life. And God knows this. And do you know that over 365 times it says in the Bible, fear not, do not be afraid? It's enough times for every single day of the year that the Lord wants to say to you and I, fear not, don't be afraid. And you know when he says that, it wasn't because they weren't afraid. It's because they were afraid. Fear is real. And someone that tells you that fear is not real is lying. It is so real. I have good news for you. Because this is why I want to preach this message today and talk about a risk worth taking. Because it is going to be risky to believe. It's risky to have faith. It's risky to say, I'm going to give it all to Jesus. It's risky today. And each one of us are dealing with some kind of fear. And let me say this. Because as I was thinking about some different things, I think a lot of us can relate or remember past fears. Past fears, what do? They feed your failure. Past fears, they will feed your failure. And they also will do what? They will cause a fatigue to set in, to get tired. When you have a fear from the past, like even just talk about this practically, a fear of failing in a relationship. What happens when you come in to have a new relationship with somebody? What does your past tell you? It's not going to happen. It's not going to work. And then what do you feel? I'm so tired. I've tried this before and it's not working. I've tried to live for God. I've tried to do things right, but it's too hard. Anyone said those types of things before? I have tried fighting for my marriage, but it's still not working. I'm tired. Past fears, they feed it. They feed that thing. And they make you feel tired. I've tried to help my child make the right decisions, but they keep on making the wrong ones. I'm tired. I've tried to stop the addiction, the drinking, the substance abuse. I've tried, but I'm tired. Most of you probably in a moment of decision, and that where you find yourself failing is you go, I'm tired. Just tired. Isn't that the moment of weakness? You sit there and you're like, okay, and the enemy's like, it's okay. It's all right. It's that tiredness, and so we give up. But the trouble with many of us is that in trying times, we stop trying. And our failure is often just because we stopped trying. Not because you actually failed. Because you're still living, right? You're still alive, so there's still time to actually make it. You're still here today. You're standing, you're sitting there. That means that God has a hope for you. So, think about the greatest sports teams, the greatest Olympians that won in the final seconds. Don't we love them? They make movies about them. They won in the final moments of the game or whatever it was because they didn't stop trying. They just kept running. What is keeping you? Let me ask you, I want you to really hear me today. What is keeping you from everything that God wants to do in your life? What is keeping you? And most of us would use a person. We'll say, well, it's that person. Or it's my job. Or it's my situation. Or it's this. But I want you to get real today with yourself. What is the fear? What is the 48-inch line? That thing that you come up against and it says, sorry, you can't ride. You can't get on. You can't enter in. Some people walk into church and they see the 48-inch line. No, I don't belong here. I can't hang with you. What has you white-knuckled? Hanging on for dear life. How do you make it past this fear of failure? And I want to talk about risk, a risk we're taking. Let's look in the Bible together in 2 Kings. The book of 2 Kings, chapter 7. I must start in verse 3. And I'm so thankful for the word of God because it is truth and it will overcome the things that you and I battle with. If you need a manual for life, it's the word of God, it's the Bible. And in 2 Kings chapter 7, verse 3, this is what it says. Now there were 4 men with leprosy sitting at the entrance of the city gates. Look at this. Why should we sit here waiting to die? They asked each other this question: why should we sit here waiting to... These were guys that were dying, leprosy, no hope for life, stuck in depression. Their condition was terminal. But yet a question rose up in them: why should we sit here waiting to die? Let me just give you some context to the text, okay? This was the city was under siege. Where they were, the city was under attack. Anyone feel a little bit of attack in your life? Maybe you found it on the way to church today. Little attack maybe in your mind. Feel under siege. The devil is after you. He's challenging you. They were under siege. All the people, think about the cities in those days, they were all walled. And the people behind the walls, they were trapped. They were surrounded by an army, it says in the Bible, of 40,000 soldiers ready to shoot if they even tried to exit. And you think, how does this relate to my life? Well, it's because in moments that you want to go to the other side, you want to advance, you want to get better, you want to defeat that old addiction, you want to be a better person, you want to experience God, it feels like on the outside of the wall, there's an enemy saying, I'm waiting for you. That fear keeps you inside. It keeps you gripping for your life, holding on. I'm not going to let go, white-knuckled. And so archers were stationed there, it says. And so as you can imagine, there was great panic in the city. As you read into this, it says that the people were dying because there were no food. There was no food. There was no water. And even cannibalism had set in. They started eating one another. And you think, thank God we don't live in those times. Yes, we do. People are at each other all the time. People are killing people in schools. People are killing people because of your color. People are killing people because of what you believe and what you say. And they may not kill you physically, but I'm on Facebook, y'all, and people will cuss me out because I say I want to pray for you. The amount of comments I have to delete on my Facebook because they say, because I said, hey, I want to pray for you. People will backbite, they will gossip, they will murmur, and they even live in your own house. So cannibalism, okay, maybe we're not eating each other in the flesh like that, but it doesn't need that. And so we live in similar times, but there were 4 guys. I want to talk to the 4 guys in the room today, the 4 people, these guys who were willing to take a risk even though they shouldn't have because they were the outcasts. Anybody feel a little outcast? Ever feel that you don't really fit in? Ever feel you're undereducated? You don't have enough? Oh, my status quo or my socioeconomic status is not enough. I live in LA and I'm still not making 6 figures. Come on in. These 4 guys, I'm talking to the 4 guys in the room, their situation was not good. And the Bible says they had this thing called leprosy, which was eating away at their physical body. They couldn't be in public spaces. They were isolated. They were apart from people, segregated. And they've been in quarantine a long time. I don't know about you, but that quarantine was brutal last year. I was getting crazy. I was about to eat somebody. And they were at the city gates and no one would allow them in, and they would wait for the scraps to be thrown over just so that they could try and survive. And I don't want to focus too much in this moment just on the physical sense of leprosy, but a spiritual type of leprosy, a heart type of thing for you and I. Because when you're dealing with the things on the inside of you, it makes it so hard to overcome the 48-inch line. You can feel tall on the outside, but you come up against that 48-inch line, and no matter what, you still feel I'm not good enough because she said that to you, and you just go, that just sealed what I've always felt about myself. You are a disappointment. You're just like your dad. You always will be. And so you know what the guy goes and does? I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm going to kick that 48-inch line, and I'm going to go and just do what you told me I was going to do. That's how we react. This is the leper. What has become a leprosy in your heart? Let me ask. Would you think about it? Do you have any bitterness today? Maybe some fear, talking about fear. Do you have any immorality? Can we get real? Hatred. These guys were dealing with all of it. They were looking at these walls and thinking, psh. But something changed in them and they began to say, why should I stay here until I die? Can I talk to some people going to Encounter Weekend? I want a question to rise up on the inside of you. Say, why am I going to stay the way I am until I die? I'm not going to do it. The situation says this is too hard. Some of you who are going to Encounter Weekend, again, this is a weekend that we do at our church, where it's amazing ministry healing. Those who are going through life class, it's going to be just a beautiful time together. But you know what begins to happen? And let me give you some insight. Those who are going to Encounter, you're going to find every excuse not to go. The job tells you can't go. You're like, man, they decide to call me. Family members show up all of a sudden. You're like, where were you when I needed you? A bill comes in and you thought, you have to be kidding me. I knew I couldn't go. These walls, leprosy. I'm an outcast. I shouldn't be here. Whatever. There are so many things that will arise, but I want to speak to that place in your heart that would allow something in you to say, why would I stay here until I die? Living the way I've been living. God has something more. God could change my life. Maybe it took me 10 years to dig myself into this place, but God can turn a 10-year time of deficit and debt into one moment of favor will change your life. One moment. Why would I sit here allowing my past to determine my today? Why would I sit here and remain too stubborn to change? And I talk to some stubborn people. Don't look at me. Oh, I don't want to change. Why would I sit here and allow my pride to keep me from God's best? Could it be that God has something more? Could it be that he has something greater? Why should I sit here trapped in my anxiety? Why should I sit here and miss another opportunity to meet Jesus and have him as my... Look, I'm not talking about a physical condition. I'm talking about a spiritual condition today. And so it's going to require you to take a risk. It's going to require faith. It's going to require you to let go. Our 48-inch line, this line has to go. It's been intimidating you for too long. And I'm just trying to give you a visual picture. Maybe you've never thought of it that way. But now when you see that 48-inch line, when you go to the roller coaster park or whatever it is, and you see that thing, you need to think, I'm going to just take that thing down. That's not going to stop me from getting on the ride of my life. What God has for me, the future, not only the future, but for today, the hope, the blessing, the promise, it's mine. Look in verse 4, it says, we will starve if we stay. This is so good. Look at this. But with the famine in the city, we will starve if we go back. So we might as well, listen to this, we might as well go out and surrender to the Aramean army. If they let us live, so much the better. If they kill us, we would have died anyway. I'm just going to give you a few things in the last couple minutes. And I'm actually going to go from what I spoke about last week. Because we talked about thinking. If you remember, I said, it begins in your thinking, in your thoughts. And then it becomes what? An action. And then that action will become a habit in your life. And then the habit then will become a lifestyle, which becomes your destiny. But it all began in your thoughts. And so this first point I want you to take from verse 4 is think. What if? What if? That question, what if? Think it. Think, what if? Remember, change your mind and you will change your world. You either conform to the culture around you or you let God transform you by the changing of your mind or the renewing of your mind. So these guys started thinking. Can I ask the church to start thinking for once? The church just has to stop thinking. Think. What if we stay where we are in life, we will die? Think about your life. If you stay doing what you keep doing and what you've kept doing, you may live a number of years, but you might be just dead spiritually, dead emotionally. They said, we will die of starvation. We will die of leprosy. And if we go, we might die. But look at this. But what if we live? What if God would set me free? That's an amazing question. I know it sounds like kind of counter to faith because a lot of the time we declare in faith, God is going to set me free. But let me just begin here because it begins at a thought. What if God set me free? Because you could just say, well, he's not going to set me free. So you stay and you deal with the anxiety, you deal with the disease, you deal with whatever has bound you for so many years, or you allow this thing to rise up inside of you. What if he would set me free? What if he would change my situation? What if I go to Encounter Weekend and I'm healed of this broken heart? What if? What if? Because what if moments cause faith to rise up in you? This could really change. What if we moved to LA, babe, and we start a church? You know, that's where it began. And she thought, we may die. And I thought, yeah, it's pretty likely, actually. What are we thinking? But if we stay where we are, we're going to die. Some of you are in this place in your life, kind of on the edge, and but I'm just going to say, if you stay, you will die, because complacency is one of the biggest killers. And you can be 18, 19, 20, 25, 70. Complacency will kill you. Passivity doesn't get anyone to heaven. It doesn't get you in front of Jesus. Faith, though, is risky. It's risky. And I love it. I heard a pastor many years ago. He says, this is how you spell faith. R-I-S-K. I thought, it is? I learned it wrong this whole time. But look, your life will either be run by fear or faith. But let me tell you this, and I believe Nelson Mandela said it. Faith isn't the absence of fear. It's the power to overcome it. Fear is around. You will face it probably even daily. But what faith does is it gives you the power to overcome, the power to see beyond. And we can't afford to settle, friends. We cannot settle in our relationship with Jesus. If you think, oh, great, I'm in a relationship with Jesus now, it should be okay. It doesn't work that way. You got to keep pursuing. You got to keep going after him. He loves you. He is there. He's available, but he's waiting for you too. As much as you want, you will get. In the same way, as much education as you want, you will go get it. It will not come to you. How many of you, a professor came and knocked on your door and the dean of the school said, hey, here's your degree. Just hope you want to get it. No, you slaved through the night for that thing. No one knew, no one saw, no one called you. You made a decision. If you want your marriage to work, you better get going, y'all. You better go through. And I'm 11 years in, and the pursuit just got more. I got to pursue my wife. I got to find her in the kitchen too. Hey, babe, you looking good. You're looking better than you did last year, actually. This pursuit cannot end. My pursuit for my children, they may get older and say, you know what, Dad, I don't want to hug you anymore. Well, I'm going to find you. I'm going to hug you. Oh, I'm going to hug you. I don't care. You're going to kiss me still. I don't care if you're 16, 17. Jesus, I'm here. I'm pursuing you. You cannot settle. Don't settle. Great things never came out of comfort zones. Come on, I could keep going on this. Let me go through. Come on, move on. Verse 5. Chapter 7, verse 5 and 7. Anyone receive anything? You getting something? Come on, say okay. At twilight, they set out, it says, for the camp of the Arameans. But when, I lost myself, where am I? But when they came to the edge of the camp, no one was there. And so, for the Lord had caused the Aramean army to hear the clatter of speeding chariots and the galloping of horses and the sounds of a great army approach. There was 4 men. There was only 4 men. They had leprosy. They weren't loud. You know, all they can say when they entered into a room is unclean, unclean, unclean. Because they had to announce that when they walked in, because if you got too close, you would get it. So I'm unclean. I'm a sinner. Okay. But they heard something more. The king of Israel has hired the Hittites and Egyptians to attack us. They cried to one another. Last verse. So they panicked and ran into the night, abandoning their tents, horses, donkeys, and everything else as they fled for their lives. This is my second point for you. We start with think what if, but the second thing is do it even if. Even if I don't see it, you're working. Come on, Aaron, help me out. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop. You never stop working. You never stop. You never stop. Because you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. So it begins at a thought. Think what if God would do it. Then I got to have an action. I got to have an act. I do it even if I may lose some friends, even if I don't know the outcome, even if I don't feel it, even if I don't see it. Because this is so powerful, and I don't know if it's going to be on the screen, but when you step out, God shows up. It's amazing. Every time you step out, God shows up. Peter on the water, when he stepped out, God showed it, but he failed. He sank. He didn't read this. Yeah, but God showed up. When you step out, the prodigal son came to his senses. He got up, ran, and it said that the father ran to him. Even if, look, step out just like the prodigal son. And see the Father is waiting. Step out, give your whole heart. Step out and determine. I'm speaking to my encounter people to go to this encounter, even if you're scared. Even if there's opposition, do it. Step out. Some of you don't want to say step out and join a connect group. You know why? Because it's so beautiful doing life with people. Don't do it alone. What if they didn't step out? That's my question when I read these scriptures. But what if they'd have just stayed? They would have died. And that's the question for you. If you just don't step out, I know you, and you may not die physically, but spiritually, your life will just be on life support, hoping that you can maintain. But God has more. This is a risk worth taking. And when you don't risk anything, you risk everything. When you don't risk anything, you actually will risk everything. It's a risk getting married. It is. It's a risk coming to church. Because what happens if people don't like me? It's a risk for me to stand up here and speak to you. It is. But even if I'm still going to do it, I'm going to do it because my God is the way maker. He's the miracle worker. He's the promise keeper for my life. And so let me just finish with this. Verse 8 and 9. This is beautiful. When the men with leprosy arrived at the edge of the camp, they went into one tent after another. Think about this. Remember, there was 40,000 soldiers. They had fled. They ate and they drank wine. They carried off silver and gold, clothing, and hid it. 4 men. Finally, they said to each other, this isn't right. This is a day of good news, church. And we aren't sharing it with anyone. If we wait until morning, some calamity might fall upon us. Come on, let's go back and tell the people. This is it. This is a risk right here. This is a risk, but I want to give you it. The last one. Life finds real purpose only if we love others. Think what if, do it even if, but life finds real purpose only if we love others, only if we give it away because of their risky faith to say what if, and their bold determination to step out, even if they were facing opposition, overcoming fear, even if they were going to lose some things, they still believed in God. Bless them. And this is what I want to see, the beautiful part of this. They said, we can't keep it for ourselves. We can't experience the goodness, the healing. We can't experience the blessing, the riches of God without giving it away to others. Oh, that this revelation would fall upon the church today, that we would not want to keep it in these four walls, but that we would take it to our homes, to the streets, to our workplaces, to the highways, and to the byways and say, I have received something. It doesn't ever say they were healed from leprosy, and God will heal you, and He is a healer. But this is incredible. It wasn't because they were healed that they do this. And oftentimes I will do it when I'm healed. I will reach out when I've been changed and completely delivered. I will begin to believe in a different way. But these guys, it doesn't speak of that place, and I believe that they probably were. But in other occasions, it talks about the healing, but it doesn't. It just talks about their great faith to overcome that 48-inch line, that fear that had told them to stay on the outside. But they said, why would I stay here until I die? You see, when God begins to change your world, it always begins to change those around you. That's the evidence of the church doing what we're called to do. Jesus said, you will be known by your fruit. You will be known by the fruit of your life. And so this is what I want to say. Your life finds real purpose only if you give it away. Let's be the church that gives it away. This is a risk, though, because you know people hurt you. How many have been hurt by a few people? It's a risk to love again because maybe I'll be let down. I may be rejected. It's a risk to do it. It is. It's a risk to come to church because the last time I went to church, people left me or said something to me or I don't know. But it's a risk worth taking because if you stay where you are, you'll die. And this is what the Lord said to me, and this is what I want to finish with. Because loving you was a risk worth taking. Jesus said loving you was a risk. Because you could have said no. He loved you no matter what. From the beginning of the ages that He came and He became poor so that you and I could become rich. He came and was broken so that we could be made whole, but not everyone receives that. Not everyone says yes. And He says, but it was a risk worth taking because I want you to know the goodness of God, to get on this ride. That is a ride that you can shout, that's full of joy, and that when you get through, you say, you know what, I want to do it again, but I'm going to take someone with me this time because this life is a life to be lived in full and in abundance because my God is not limited. I want to ask you to take a risk. Let's stand and we're going to receive. I want to take a risk together. To believe God at His word. Think what if, right where you are, if you just join me, let's close our eyes. And you say, why do we close our eyes in church? It's not a religious deal. It's just something to shut out the distraction. I'm not looking at anybody to my left or my right or in front of me, but I want to see you, Jesus. And so we just engage with you in this moment. This is your time to respond. In the service, this is the moment for you to respond. You say, what if I believe like I've never believed before? What if I begin to love again? What if I begin to open my heart again? Some of you close your heart. You've been beaten so bad by life. But today the Lord is saying, I have some things for you, but you've got to begin right there in that place and say, what if we go? What if I go and I encounter the living Jesus and I'm set free and I'm changed forevermore? I want that. I want that today. Let it rise up in you. Why would I stay here? I don't want to remain the same. I can't settle. I can't settle. Why would I stay here? If you feel like you're battling that question this morning, I want to pray for you. And I'm going to ask you to come to the front and take a risk. Maybe you think, I don't know if I could go to the front. I don't want people to see me. Don't do it for that. Come as an action. Step out and let God show up. Do it even if. Do it even if. Would you come? Would you join me up front? If you say, I need this fear to be broken in my life.
Wow, that was a wonderful message. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. If you want to know more about who we are, you can also check out our website. And we would love to see you here in person next week. It's from 10 a.m. It used to be 10:30, but we've changed the time to 10 a.m. So make sure that you're here on time. We want to see you. As a church, we also have a few cool things going on, something called Prayer Mornings, which is Tuesday in the morning at 6 a.m. Make sure that you connect. It is via Zoom. You can check out our link on the website. And we also have something called Connect Groups throughout the week. There's various ones so that you can stay connected with us throughout the week.